El futuro es gracias. El futuro en
Future in general, we can't see. However, today, here, we've listened to what's most important in the future. Because as time speeds by, as minutes go whizzing past, hours, days, weeks, months, and years, life goes by as well. And life is something that carries on while we're doing something completely different. That's what happens. And that's true. It's true that we find that sometimes what is difficult is actually seeing what's crystal clear. And seeing what's crystal clear means, as we've just heard now, that we need to understand life in a different way. Technology, as Pedro Miguel Echenique said on several occasions, is very, very swift. And if we do things properly, this is going to be very positive for life, for our welfare, for society in general. And we find that in the end, at the end of our lives, we will be living in increasingly complex environments. And if we're prepared for them, that won't be a problem. But they do require new responses. There's no point in having the responses we always give. We need to find different responses because human beings are going to experience situations that they've never had in their history. We don't have the ability of looking behind us to see what's going to look towards the future. We don't have a benchmark because different things are going to happen. And this requires us to be differently trained and offer different responses. And we need to be prepared to face these. Three worlds are coming together: the physical world, the digital world, and the biological world. And this is just going to be incredible for the way mankind and lives advance. There are some people who say that actually we're jumping into a vacuum. And this leap into a vacuum, well, there's two ways of doing it. One, you just get prepared for that leap, and the other is you don't get prepared for that leap into a vacuum. If we don't get prepared for that leap, things might happen that we aren't in control of. You think something's going to happen, and actually completely the opposite happens. And we end up falling and just we keep on falling until eventually what happens? We don't go down, we just keep on traveling. And if we are prepared, if we've got a good parachute, we're going to be able to enjoy our glide down and land peacefully. That is, we're prepared to land because there's a great opportunity that opens ahead of us to take this qualitative leap in the lives of humankind to improve people's welfare, but in all countries, in all the world. And this requires us to change rapidly because everything changes rapidly. All transformations need to be quick. That means that we're going to drive forward with our progress. We need to be clear on this. And we in VET here in the Basque Country are implementing very, very advanced technologies, lots of them, but we're also implementing and developing human values. They are also important. And we're working on technology, for example, in the context of digital transformation. Well, what's the most important of all of this? Well, in the end, people, because teachers are making a tremendous effort in getting trained so that they are ready to offer that training and to transfer that knowledge to the students of the future. Progress always goes hand in hand with people. That means that we change the way in which we learn. We need to work on collaborative, challenge-based learning in collaborative teams with our students, in teaching teams. Nobody works individually in different spaces where you learn in a different way, where you analyze, you create, you get involved in new things, you create prototypes, you manufacture, always working as a team. We work on 3D printing, for example, in the health fields when we are working on tumors, on cancers, where doctors and hospitals work with us so that they can find out how far a tumor has spread, how many ribs it's affected. So they know before a patient is cut open how many ribs they need, and they make those ribs out of titanium. They know where to place those titanium ribs, and they can reduce operating times in over 3 hours. Or when we have scanners to manufacture different parts using 3D printers, we are introducing the most modern technologies to gradually develop the future that we can see is actually coming very, very quickly just around the corner. We're also getting involved in what we now call digital spaces. These are 100% digital spaces, digital classrooms, interactive spaces where our colleges will be fully prepared by the 2024-2025 academic year. All of this will be 100% digital tables where you send message from one table to another. These will be in different colleges in different times, so that if I go from my table to another, there's another table that might be 10, 50, 100, or 1,000 kilometers away from me, because everything is digitally. And we're training people so that they can use this technology easily, always collaboratively, as you can see in this image.
This brings us also to training of teachers, because they first need to know how to work with the technologies to later transfer this knowledge to our students. But this is our classrooms we use with 360 degrees learning, because sometimes you can explain without having to write anything and describing circumstances of what they have to learn. That can be an engine or whatever. Now you can see immersive technologies on the screen. In this case, what we do is to get inside the technology, but always working in teams. Here, we have 5 students that have already worked on this, learning how to work in heights, or in this case, working on a car, and they can assemble, disassemble, paint, or here where they can be trained to how they have to work in the hospital where the material is located, and so on and so forth. We also work on AI from 2 perspectives. AI for teachers. How is this going to help us in the classes themselves, but also AI with students? We're also working, as you can see here, with robotics to see how we can work with robots that can provide support in different environments in BET, with elements like this one or others that can help us and support us. In this case, with also this robot that provides a company, it can provide assistance, help you with a gym class for the elders. So these are robots that are going to coexist with us in our homes and in our daily lives. But we are also working on the Internet of Senses, for example, touch, and how virtually, if you're in you can feel the cold of snow and throw a snowball at someone that is also virtually there. Or we can fly drones with our sight, with the orders from our sight to our brain, and this transmits the order so that it can fly. But we can also use the Internet of Senses to turn on off lights, television, to open the doors of a wardrobe, and we can do this with our sight. We can also working on other senses that will be developed by 2030. For example, that you can buy a perfume and know the smell before buying it. And Commissioner also talked about precision agriculture. Here we work with hydroponics and aquaponics with drones to know if we're in an open field where the crops have to be located, or to understand how the growth of the different plants is progressing. And we can do this with drones that are digitized, and we could also use AI to help us improve the crops. Or if we're working with aquaponics and hydroponics, as you can see on the screen. But we also work on food, healthy food and sustainable food products. We analyze food products, we cook them, process them, eat them, and we need to understand what we're doing. We work with bioprinters to be able to manufacture cartilage or skin with living cells so that we don't reject organs that later on will be manufactured through these bioprinters. In this example, we see a microscope to be able to see things with high precision and work in critical situations. And as you can see here, we can also print food products or print on already existing food products. Therefore, and as you can see, there's an advanced technology in many fields, not only in industry, but in many fields. And this progress is present in technology, but also in individuals, in teachers and in students, because we're going to our smart system world, which means that in this world we need a high level of humanity. And this is not as easy to develop. We need to balance technology and humanity, and this requires an effort of the teachers, as I will explain, because it's the values of people, the values of humankind that make us feel and be human. So when we look at the kind of people we will need in the future, we need people with values, and we need to develop those values. And what are the values that we will need in the future? We're progressing towards a future that is very passionate. Let's see this video.
The human heart is still one of the biggest mysteries in medicine and anatomy. The main reason for our lack of understanding is the complexity of the heart's structure and its phenotype. However, modern technology is helping us to understand this amazing organ. At the Barcelona Supercomputing Center, and in close collaboration with medical doctors and bioengineers, we are developing a large-scale simulator of the human heart called ALIA-RED, the computational cardiac model. A computational description of the heart requires information at very different scales in time and space, from the ions inside the cells, or the muscular tissue that forms the organ, and up to the whole individual. Because it is not practical to compute all the scales to the same level of detail, our cardiac model is based on the organ scale. At this level, a heartbeat is driven by an electrical impulse that causes the muscular contraction, which in turn is responsible for the pumping action. For this reason, we say that the heart is a coupled physical system. In our simulator, we can apply electric impulses directly to any zones of the heart, just like a pacemaker would do. These initial impulses unleash a generalized propagation of electricity through the whole cardiac structure in a coordinated way. Thanks to the optimized organization of muscular fibers, this electrical flash makes the ventricles contract during what is known as the systole. To create the best possible cardiac simulator, in terms of realism and detail, we rely on tools and data that have not been available until recently. The geometry and shape of the heart are measured using magnetic resonance imaging with a resolution of up to 36 micrometers, which allows us to construct a mesh with hundreds of thousands of computational elements. Electricity travels much faster along cardiac muscular fibers than across them, so a correct anatomical description of their arrangement is probably the most important element in obtaining a realistic electromechanical model of the heart. Cardiac fibers are specially organized to allow the contraction of the heart cavities in a coordinated, stable and efficient way. Until very recently, the only way to describe cardiac fiber arrangements was with simplified models based on histological sections of animal hearts. Today, we can achieve a much better description of the fibers using a technique called diffusion tensor imaging, using magnetic resonance to map the diffusion of water molecules along biological tissues. In our cardiac simulator, we can use diffusion tensor imaging information as well as mathematical models, allowing us to validate theory with experiments and improve our numerical methods. ALIA, the software developed at the Barcelona Supercomputing Center, has been designed from scratch for an efficient use of large parallel clusters. Producing an accurate simulation of a heart requires considerable computing power. That's why we perform our simulations on BSC's supercomputer, Mare Nostrum, where calculations can be distributed among 10,000 processors, working in a tightly coordinated way. These simulations will help medical doctors to better understand how our body works, to diagnose pathologies, to plan operations and treatments, and to test and design new drugs. Nowadays, large-scale simulations of the human body may seem like science fiction, but techniques like magnetic resonance were also science fiction only 50 years ago. With the help of information technology, the future of medicine is being built today.
Esto era 2012.
This was 2012. 2012. Do you know what's happening now? They are already working in human digital twins. We will have virtual copies of each and every one of you and myself, so that in medicine they can work on other elements directly with no problems. So they will see if our cholesterol is high. They will analyze this in our virtual copy and see what the development is and be able to foresee what our situation will be. But looking into other technologies and education, well, you see that this is our logo, but you can have an hologram. As you saw before, I was 200 or 300 meters away when you saw me before. So as you can see, now here we have an engine, so I can explain what the parts are. I can move it. I can explain, as I was saying, the different parts through an hologram that is in 3D. And you see this engine that can be moved no problem to be able to explain everything. And with any other kind of element, we can do the same thing. So I don't need a blackboard anymore. Directly with this holograms, I can explain this thing that I want to explain to my students. So we have a wonderful future before us, but we need to transform the training of people. But how do we transform society? We do this through the individuals that make up society. But do we know the society and world that we want for the future? In our government, in the education department, we know, and this is something that we are working on with our view on 2015. Maybe we get it wrong, but we are doing everything possible not to get it wrong. So what kind of human being do we want in a world that is going to be different? How are we going to prepare these human beings for the future? By focusing their attention. They need to be aware of what is going on, what will happen in the future, how they're doing things, and the things that they will be able to achieve as human beings, supporting themselves in the technology. Because for us teachers, we will always remember Paulo Freire that says that education and training do not change the world. They prepare those that can change the world. And that is our biggest challenge, our biggest commitment, and our biggest responsibility. Because we train individuals through education at different levels where they become doctors or whatever in the future. And we are the ones that are training them. So enhancing human leadership is fundamental, understanding what being a human being is. With that awareness that I mentioned before, understanding what we are now and what we need to be in 20 years. This is really significant. And there's many people that are not reflecting on this, of course, but we need to reflect on how the world is going to be different. We're already in a new reality, and we need to be aware that many of you here today will be living in some different way. So if we do things well, our lives would be better, and we need to be aware of this. So what is the role of individuals in this future? As I said before, we need to work more on our awareness, on ourself and who we are. And we should not forget this, because machines are going to progress, and we will see very weird things that we used to see in science fiction films but that we are will become a reality. And not only robots that, of course, will be present, but many other things that will be similar to human beings that we will see in the future. Some of you, at least, will be able to see these things and coexist with things that we cannot even imagine now. Therefore, we need a vision based on collaboration between human beings, between people. That's why collaborating is so important, and always working with each other and through empathy. Also, a fundamental concept. We have to break with the individualism that is present in our youngsters, because what differentiates human beings from robots, machines, cyborgs, or whatever comes in the future? How do we differentiate ourselves? Pedro Miguel explained this really well. There will be machines that are already making decisions at our speed that we cannot do so. So what's going to differentiate us? Well, there's something that is fundamental. One of the fathers of the fourth industrial revolution, Klaus Schwab, said that the fourth industrial revolution is not changing what we do, but who we are. And in this concept, the change is the change in attitude. Your attitude as a human being and how we face different things. And this way of seeing things is something that we can train. The way in which we face the different difficulties and things that we face in the world, providing sense to our lives, but also balance, something that we will be able to achieve each and every one for themselves, but also together as society. And that's why we need to be bold enough to show what being a human being is in a future full of technology. And it seems to be an audacity and bold, but it's really important. How are we going to do this? Well, growing and starting by being humble, because if there's something that we have too much of in the world is arrogance. So we have to work in a simple and humble manner. When we transfer knowledge or our students learn what they need to learn for whatever they want to do in their lives, we always need to also teach them that they have to work in a simple and humble way. A fundamental thing for them to be able to enjoy the simple things of life. But life is really very simple. We are the ones that making things complex. When we have to see life through this simplicity and understand that life is wonderful and simple, and we make things more complex, and we create problems regarding emotional welfare and well-being, something that really concerns us, especially in young people. So this is something that we're working on in vocational training, and this is something that I will explain in this 3 minutes.
We're heading towards a smart future. The fourth industrial revolution is unfolding rapidly. We're experiencing a new reality, and we can already sense that the world in 2030 will be a very different place. The fourth industrial revolution in its entirety will bring with it a new type of society, Society 5.0, in which human beings will be the primary focus. We must move towards a new era for humanity. We are heading towards an automated cognitive world with immediate data access, in which everything will be connected to everything else. In the highly complex evolutionary process before us, only human beings know how to be human. Only people can hold values, feel, create, and adapt to the changes. Our ability to adapt has gotten us this far. We have always learnt from the environment around us, or from the people who are with us at different stages of our lives. We have responded to every challenge with the best possible solution. The challenge we face today is much more complex. We must respond to the situation, to a future which we are just starting to envisage. We are facing a revolution that will change society completely. Robotics, artificial intelligence, digitalization and smart systems will transform all areas of our lives. The BAS professional training sector is preparing for the exciting and complex future that awaits us. It is creating new types of smart professional training centers, which will generate a new work culture and use highly advanced technologies. They will use new methods to respond to new objectives and create smart organizational structures and workspaces. These centers will develop creative ability by building organizations with a genuine capacity for learning and creativity. They look to the future, they have ideas, they take risks, they're autonomous. They use different tools, methods and structures. But above all, they put the people within them at the center. Their ability to adapt, react, anticipate and disrupt will set them apart. Digitalization, robotics and artificial intelligence are tools that will help us to live and work better by supporting progress and well-being in our society. It is our job to prepare people for living in a complex and exciting future.
Not much left till the end of the video, but I guess you can understand what we're doing. What's really important is that we need everyone in society, and we need to create expectations, because the future can be wonderful if we do things so well. But we also need to have new opportunities. We cannot generate expectations in young people if later on they don't have opportunities to develop these expectations. And this means that if we're able to do so, and we will be able to do so, we need to first of all generate curiosity, but also interest and hope. Because if not, things will not be happening and they won't have the interest of doing so. So what are we enhancing and promoting? Mainly motivation. Where does this motivation come from? This is a driving force, a significant driving force that comes from our most important organ and that we talked about at the beginning of my presentation, our heart. The heart is something that won't be found in any robot or humanoid. Therefore, we need to develop the context of what a heart is. The heart is a muscle? No. We've heard on many occasions say, I've written this from my heart, or he said it from the bottom of his or her heart, or you do so with all of your heart. Why do we use this expression, and what does it mean? It means something special, that you're doing something that makes a difference because you're putting your heart into it. And doing so means that it's a transformative force that will differentiate us from robots with all these elements that we will never find in them. They won't have intuition, emotions, passion, feelings, generosity, hope, commitment, trust. They will do many other things, but this is what we have as humankind and what we need to work on. This is what will clearly differentiate us from machines, and this is what we find in our hearts. Nelson Mandela said that a good mind and a good heart are always a formidable or a great combination. He didn't just say good. So having an open mind, because your mind is like a parachute. If you don't open it, it doesn't work. So with an open mind and putting your heart out there, we will have the strength to face a future with a hope and optimism, as Pedro Miguel said. In VET, we are working on this project that we're passionate on, because we're discovering what's really important, and we're also observing that with your great work, we're also understanding how significant what we're working on is. This is fundamental to also encourage ourselves, because we've worked on different values as teachers in colleges, always feeling we belong to a project that is important for the present and future. And you participate with a clear idea of what it means to be VET teachers like myself. Now, I have the honor of being the Deputy Regional Minister for VET, but I am at the core a teacher, and I feel very proud of it because I know what we are and what we are doing for the future. And these values are the ones guiding us to that such important future, because at the end of the day, everything happens for a reason. And this is something we see through our work and through the decisions that we've made. And through your work, your enormous task that is sometimes very complex, we understand who we are, and what we will be in the future. Because we also need to continue evolving in VET. And let's not forget in the classrooms, when we're in the classrooms, we're not just transferring what we know, but what we are. First of all, we give the information of who we are, and then we transfer our know-how. Never forget this. This is something I've always had on my mind when I was before my students. And we need to progress trusting the future, because at the end of the day, this is a future we are writing and structuring now, because you face the future, and that's what we are doing. And this is a responsibility we all have in our hands. And there is a book, a wonderful book that I read many, many years ago that I always recommend, Martes con mi viejo profesor. Tuesdays with my old teacher. And there is a sentence in the book that I always wrote down, and I had it in my office in my college when I was a teacher. And it says that the teacher has an effect on eternity. They never know where their influence ends. And that is our biggest challenge and responsibility, because we don't know how we're going to influence thousands and thousands of youth that study VET with us. And let me finish. There was a journalist that unfortunately passed away 14 years ago. He was a sports journalist that did basketball in the Hall of Spain. And he always ended by saying, because life can be wonderful. So he, if you had won the game, it was even better. But he always transmitted energy, good energy to you, because he always said life can be wonderful. And this was after the end of a basketball game. So now in your day-to-day, when you have problems with the youngsters you're working with, when you're helping people in that are unemployed so that they find employment as soon as possible, you have to reflect on how, with the work you're doing, you are getting you're making thousands of people have this wonderful life. Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure to be with you all. And please enjoy this international meeting. Thank you.